I will be your host today. I am the Senior Programs Manager for Military Spouse and Family Programs at the USO, and I will be hanging out with you guys today. So thank you very, very much again for joining us. And we are thrilled to have New York Times bestselling author Brad Meltzer joining us today. Brad, are you with us?
I was just waiting for.
Yes.
I'm just sitting here drinking my imaginary. I hope I don't spill it at all.
Oh, I'm not going to do the same thing. I'm not going to
That
copy.
is my. I'm so happy to be here today, and I got my. I when we clinked that we're here. Clink.
There you go.
There you go. So thank you. Thank you. Only thing I need to say to everyone watching right now. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for what you do, and especially for being here today. It means more than you realize.
Well, we appreciate you joining us today. I know that you were hanging out yesterday with some pretty cool people. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? And then we'll jump into some questions and also talk a little bit about you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I was one of the authors. They pick a bunch of authors every year to go to the White House Easter egg roll and read to kids for literacy. And so I got to go yesterday. It was myself, Jimmy Fallon, Kristen Chenoweth, Sierra and Russell Wilson, Elmo and the cast of Sesame Street, and me. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. Even my wife was like, how did you get here? And I was like, I don't even know. So we were there, and obviously we're thrilled to be able to read to all the little kids that were there doing their Easter egg roll. So it was one of the most, if you want to see the most crazy pictures, go to my Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or anything. And you will see all the name dropping bombing we were doing, but it was absurd, especially because we got to meet so many people that we were fans of.
I love it. Yeah, it was incredible. Everybody, you do have to check out his Instagram account because I saw it yesterday and I just started laughing because I was like, this is incredible. How cool is that? So thank you for doing that. I'm sure the little ones absolutely loved it. And I'm sure the big ones, the adults enjoyed it too. So
Yeah, no, it was fun. It did start pouring, but I got Elmo and Abby Kadabi from Sesame Street to kiss my wife on the grounds of the White House, and she just couldn't be happier. And when you make your wife that happy, I was like, I'm done. I'm done. That's
yes,
it. They have, they had the original Sesame Street Maria, and from there,
yeah.
it was, and Alan, and it was Sesame Street. So what can we possibly say?
I mean, yeah, after you say Elmo, it's just like you really name dropped there. So
No, no, for
big
sure.
deal.
Well, I will tell you this: the last time I was at the White House was during the Bush administration, and the Bushes had a bunch of authors over, and and Elmo was there also. Oddly, whenever I'm there, Elmo is there, and Mrs. Bush was so funny. Laura Bush said, at the end, she's like, "You can take a picture with me, or you can take it with Elmo." And she saw everyone's face. She's like, "I know you all want to take it with Elmo," and she knew that everyone. No offense to any first lady ever, but it was still it's Elmo.
No, yeah, I have a picture with Elmo. I met Elmo in Washington, D.C. as well. I don't like to brag, but I did. And that is the picture that gives me all the street cred with my 2 and 5-year-old. I mean, that's the one. So yes. And speaking of my kids, I don't know if you knew, I think you did. This month, April, is month of the military child. So that's why we're really excited to have you, is because of all of the children's books that you've written, and we'll get into that soon. But I wanted to talk a little bit about you as a young writer and what inspired you when you were little to write, or did you write when you were young? And then how did you get to be to where you are today?
Yeah, I got started and had my life changed by my ninth grade English teacher, a woman named Sheila Spicer. And Miss Spicer changed my life with three words. She said to me, "You can write." And I was like, "Well, everyone can write." And she's like, "No, no, you know what you're doing." She tried to put me in the honors class. I had some sort of conflict. She said, "Here's what we're going to do. You're going to sit in the corner for the entire year, ignore everything I do on the blackboard, ignore every homework assignment I give. And what she was really saying was, you're going to do the honors work instead, and you're going to thank me later." And sure enough, a decade later, I went to her classroom. I knocked on the door. She said, "Can I help you?" I said, "My name is Brad Meltzer. I wrote this book, and it's for you." And I handed her a copy of my first novel. And she starts crying. And I said, "Why are you crying?" She goes, "I was going to retire this year because I didn't think I was having an impact anymore."
Oh,
And I said, "Are you kidding me? We have 30 students.
yeah,
You have 30 students. We have one teacher."
yeah.
And this woman changed my life, had no impact, no idea of her impact on my life. And that was the first person who told me I can write. And that was truly one of the life-changing moments where your whole life kind of goes into a whole new way when someone tells you you're good at something.
Incredible. Yeah. And I'm sure all of us can kind of relate to a teacher and while we were in school that truly made an impact. So that's amazing that you were able to give her the book and say, you did that, like you helped me get here. So you can write. You can write. And look
Yeah.
where you're at. Look at those books behind you. You can write, Brad.
I said, it's really crazy when you're sitting in front of, when you only sit in front of books that you've written. Like
Right.
that's when it's, even my kids just make fun of me for it. But obviously I got to storm somewhere.
Yeah. And you sure did. And that was what, 25 years ago?
This is my 25th anniversary of being a writer.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I got 24 rejection letters on my first book. There were only 20 publishers at the time. I got 24 rejection letters, which means some people were writing me twice to make sure I got the point. But I do think that all of us in our lives, we know you sometimes just need one person to change your life, one person to say yes. And our job is to find that one person. And I love, love, love trying to find that person.
Yeah. And just don't give up. Absolutely. Well, and I wanted to talk about too superheroes and heroes in general. So, and I was doing some research and I saw that Jim Henson and Fred Rogers are two of your heroes. Can you tell us why? And are there any others out there that come to mind as well?
Yeah, of course. So when I was 5 years old, two people named Jim Henson and Mr. Rogers taught me you could use your creativity to put good into this world. That's what Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers taught me. You can use your creativity to put good out into the universe. And that's all I'm trying to do here today is still just trying to use my creativity to put good in the universe. But when it comes to heroes, I've been lucky enough to write Superman and write Batman. And the one thing I know is the most important part of the story has never been Superman. The most important part of the story is Clark Kent, because we're all Clark Kent. And when it comes to real heroes, listen, you know how much work I've done with the USO. I've traveled to Kuwait, Oman, to Qatar, to Cuba, to Turkey. The moment you called me and said, "Hey, can you do this today?" I will be there. Whatever the day is, you tell me, I will be there. And those are the real heroes, the people you see every day. The reason our kids book series is called Ordinary People Change the World is we all kind of take our heroes and we put them up on pedestals, and we do them a huge disservice, because everyone you look up to, whether it's Abraham Lincoln or Rosa Parks or Amelia Earhart or the spouse in your life, we all know have moments where they're scared and they're terrified and they don't know if they can go on, but they do. And we got to remember that our heroes are human. So I remember, my work with the USO. I'll tell you the story is
Yeah.
because I never get to tell it. I'll tell you how I got involved with the USO. This is a
Yes,
crazy
please.
story. So I got an email one day from a sailor on a submarine who said to me, "Hey, Brad," this is right as 9/11 happened. So 20 years ago, said, um, "We don't have a library on my submarine, but we have one of your thrillers. And I just want to thank you. We don't have many books, but that book brought me calm at a time when I really needed it." I thought that was so nice. I have to do something nice for this sailor in return for his thank you. So I called my publisher. I said, "Can I get 10,000 books donated to the USO?" And they said, "Sure." And I was like, wow, that was easy.
Right.
So I said, "Can I get called another publisher. Can I get another 10,000 books donated to the USO?" Yep. And another, yep. We got 40,000 books donated to the USO. I got involved with the USO. They started asking me to come and entertain the troops around the world, which of course I did. And when my first trip that I took was to Kuwait, and this was during the war. And this soldier says to me, "Brad, I want to thank you for all the books you donated all those years ago." And I said, "How do you even know that? Nobody knows that." And he said, "When I was in Iraq and Afghanistan, I would always see stacks of your books and they'd say courtesy of the USO. So I knew that this had to be, you had to have donated them. We put it together." And he said, "So I want to thank you." And I said, "No, no, no, I'm here to thank you. You're screwing it up. You got it all backwards. I'm
Right,
thanking
right.
you." So I come home from that trip and I'm like, I got to thank that original sailor. I got to track him down and find them. So I look around, I go on Google, I find him on Facebook, I email him, I get his phone number. And I say, "Hey, listen, my name's Brad Meltzer, and years ago you wrote me this letter, and it's got me involved with the USO, and all these books got donated. And look at what you put in motion. So I want to say thank you." And I figure he's going to be all inspired. And instead, he's dead silent on the phone. And when you're on the phone with someone, you know something's wrong. And I said, "Are you okay?" And he says, "No." And I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "My mother just died a few days ago from breast cancer. And what he has no idea of is my mother had just died from breast cancer. So I look at him and I say to him, I say on the phone, I think I'm here to deliver a message to you. And he says, what's the message? And I said, when my mom died, everyone gave me useless advice. No one knew what to say that made me feel better. But one person said something that was actually helpful, and I'm here to share it with you. He said, what's the message? And I said, our mothers never leave us, ever. And he starts crying. And because he's crying, I'm getting all emotional. I'm not one of those new agey people who feels like, the world is run by like glitter cannons and rainbows.
Right.
Sometimes we feel like we're alone in the universe, and sometimes we realize we're profoundly connected. So go say thank you to the real hero in your life. You won't believe what comes from it.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure you're reaching a lot of people right now just by the words that you're saying. And I love how you're saying like you went and you Googled this guy and you went and you found him, because as I was learning more about you before this interview, I read that you said to in order to prepare for one of your books, research, 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 right? So that this is, I mean, it's just I can see a little bit of this in everything that you do, is that you really dig into finding something that you're passionate about and then going into that. So currently we did have someone ask, they want to know, where do you go to write when you write your books?
Yeah. So, for me, I write in my home office. What you're looking at is actually a little corner of my office. And I don't care about where I'm sitting. It doesn't matter to me. The only thing that I do like is I like to be sitting there over and over and over again. It's the repetition. So you can put me in a closet, and my first book I literally wrote in a closet. It was a closet that I said was my office, but it was so because it was a walk-in and I just pretended it was an office, but I
Right.
wrote a whole book in there. But what I need, and I like having a window because it's just something to go daydream out. But when I sit there for a number of days, the world fades away. And when the world fades away, then I can go talk to my imaginary friends.
Right.
And if I'm in a different, like some people, like I go to a coffee shop Monday, and then on Tuesday I go to the car wash, and Wednesday I just ride outside. I'm like, I don't know how you do that. Because when I'm in anywhere new, all I'm doing is looking around and trying to take in where I am.
Yeah.
But eventually, when you're there for 4 or 5 days, it all looks the same. You stop seeing all the details, and you start just getting into that place you got to be.
That's incredible. And I was going to ask you then, so you have to be in your office, but if you're out at dinner with some friends or something like that and you think of something, are you one writing stuff down in the napkin or
Always.
okay.
Yeah, I'm literally always zoning out, and like my wife and kids know that I just like they'll sometimes be like you're not listening right now, are you? Like you're in your place, and I'm like, yeah, sorry. Like my brain just will, someone will say something like we were in DC and someone said, oh, did you know this happened? I was like, I didn't, but I'm gonna put that down, and I immediately put it down. So I definitely am one of those people. I will say for any writer who is like, I'm gonna keep a notepad by me when inspiration hits, like every time I woken up from like sleeping and I'm like, I had a great dream about a book, and I write down all the genius. Whenever I look at it the next morning, it's always garbage. Except one time I did dream a book. I dreamed a book called A New Day, and I literally dreamt the book, and I wrote it. It was a kid's book that I did with Dan Santat,
Okay.
and that book I dreamed. But everything else I've ever come out of a dream with has always been total gibberish. Like,
Just a dream.
why is the blue floor talking to the parrot that looks like Peter Falk? And I'm like, I don't know what that meant.
Right. How do I turn this into a book? I don't it's incredible. Well, let's talk about what you were able to create, which I'm obsessed with. Ordinary People Change the World series. I think you're at around 28 books or so now.
We're getting there. It's pretty
Around there.
crazy. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
about to. Yeah, I think they said in 2 years we celebrate our 10-year anniversary of doing these books, which is bananas to me. And I started this book series because I wanted my kids to have better heroes to look up to. I wanted to have heroes of compassion and kindness and perseverance. I started with I'm Amelia Earhart. Told my daughter, Amelia Earhart's so amazing. Isn't she great? Look, here's Amelia Earhart. And she flew across the Atlantic Ocean. And my daughter was like, big deal, Dad. Everyone flies across the Atlantic Ocean. She was not impressed at all. And then I said to her, and this is true, that when Amelia Earhart was 7 years old, she built a homemade roller coaster in her backyard. She took a wooden crate, she put roller skating wheels on the bottom, she shoved it up to the roof of her tool shed, put big pieces of wood, came flying down the side, flew through the air, said her stomach bottomed out from under her. That's the first time Amelia Earhart ever flew. She said she was 7 years old and she wanted that feeling back again. And my daughter heard that and was like, that's a good story.
Yeah.
So we started doing, I am Abraham Lincoln, I am Rosa Parks, I am Albert Einstein, I am Jackie Robinson. Um, it was really interesting when the 2016 election approached and Hillary and Donald Trump were screaming at each other every day on TV. Two of our books started selling more than any others. And they were I Am Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah.
and I Am George Washington. And it wasn't a Democrat or Republican thing at all. It was that parents and grandparents on both sides were tired of turning on the TVs and seeing politicians. What they wanted to show their kids were leaders. And we all know there's a huge difference between a politician and a leader. And I love the fact that whether we were doing the newest ones are I Am Muhammad Ali, we did I Am Malala, just came out.
Oh,
That
cool.
whatever the moral lesson is, we put it on the back. They're never about history books. Chris Eliopoulos is our amazing artist. He draws these adorable characters. But on the back of I Am Amelia Earhart, it says, I know no bounds. On the back of I Am Abraham Lincoln, it says, I will speak my mind and speak for others. On the back of Malala, it says, I know that education helps us all soar. And on the back, you got to see this drawing because it's just so cute. On the back of I Am Muhammad Ali, it says, I will always fight for what I believe. And I want my daughter to have that lesson. I want my sons to have that lesson. I want everyone to know you fight for what you believe. And I love the fact that people use our kids' books to fight back and build real heroes and libraries of real heroes for their kids and their grandkids, their nieces and their nephews. I love that.
It's incredible, incredible. And I have the Neil Armstrong one here.
Oh,
And
one
it
of my
says, I know
favorites.
that every journey begins with the first step. So
There you
very
go. It
cool.
does. Yeah, that Neil Armstrong book is about has one of my favorite details we ever did, which is that Neil Armstrong never used to use the word I. He used to use the word we. We did this. We accomplished it. He wasn't just talking about his fellow astronauts, but about the scientists, the mathematicians, the tailors who sewed his spacesuit together. We remember when humility was a great American value? We've lost that. And we need to bring humility back again for our kids. So your kids are going to choose heroes. You might as well have some say in it.
Right. So let's talk about this one
Yes.
because this is we have these for the kids and then these for the adults.
I love how you're now going to segue from like kids' books to murder. That's going to be fun.
So I think you said that somebody in this is a military spouse, correct?
Yeah. So this book, I always start books with my own fears. And this book opens with one of my great fears. A character hands his car keys over to a valet at a fancy restaurant. And the valet takes the car, but instead of parking the car, he hits a little magic button on the steering wheel. And the little GPS button says the magic words, go home. And the car plots a route to the man's house. Now the valet has the man's house keys because it's on the car keys ring. He's going to rob him. This is a robbery. But as he breaks into the man's house, the valet sees there's another man waiting for him with a gun. This is not a robbery at all. This is a trap. And when his body shows up to our hero's office, he sees something on the body no one's supposed to see. And it leads to one of the government's most closely guarded secrets. But that person who dies in the beginning is a member of the military, and his military wife now wants to know what happened to her spouse. So this whole book involves the death in a military family. And as we all know, in military families, everyone wants to be like, thank you for your service. Everything's so good. Everything's so perfect. It's really hard on our troops. You know better. This group knows better than I think truly any group in the country, that when you serve, it's not just the person who's enlisted, the whole family serves. Right. There's sacrifice for everybody. And you'll see that this man who dies, this colonel who dies, is hiding far more secrets, especially from his family, than anybody knows. So it is truly a military spouse thriller, if ever there was one. And by the way, when I just told you about the opening scene, I just ruined chapter 1 of the book for you, but that's the way it goes. No, I just ruined the first 3 pages. That's just the prologue. But you'll see in the book, I love, as you said before, research. Mm-hmm. And what you see in this book, I've taken my readers into the underground tunnels below the White House. In one of the thrillers, I've gone to the hidden labyrinth below the Capitol. In one of the thrillers, in the Lightning Rod, I found out, and this is true, that the government has about a dozen top secret warehouses hidden all across the country that they use to deal with bioterror attacks, whether it's smallpox or anthrax or anything like that. Which means that if there's an attack in New York, in California, in Michigan, in Texas, anywhere in between, that within hours, the government will have antidotes sent to that city. And I said, you're telling me the government has secret warehouses hidden all across the country. Nobody knows what's inside them. Nobody can go there. Nobody knows what's in there. I want to go inside them.
Yes.
And so when you read the last chapters of the book, I won't ruin it, but you'll see when the villain is revealed and you realize who did it, and oh my gosh, it's that person. I can't believe it. It takes place in one of these warehouses. And what you see inside that warehouse, I didn't make up. That's what's really inside there. So it's and it has one of my favorite female lead characters I've ever written, a woman named Nola Brown. And we can talk more about them, but I'll let you ask another question too.
No, that's incredible. And now I'm going to be driving by warehouses and just wondering. Yeah.
So my favorite book that I've written. So of the adult books, I say, I always love The 10th Justice is my first one. I love The Escape Artist. The Escape Artist is the book that comes before The Lightning Rod. You don't need to read them in any order. It's just where the characters are introduced. But I love those books because of the research. I wrote these books truly because of the USO. I mean, this is what nobody realizes. When I was on touring around with the USO, is when I heard about Dover Air Force Base. And I know all of you know what's at Dover Air Force Base. Most people in America do not. And we all know that Dover is where our fallen troops, where their bodies come back and those flag cover coffins come out, every family's worst nightmare. And what I saw there is the people that take care of those families and those fallen members of our military. And they will spend 12 hours rewiring someone's jaw and smoothing it over with clay because a family wants to see their son's face one last time, rebuilding someone's hand from scratch because a mother says she wants to hold her son's hand one last time. And these are the best of us working on the best of the best of us. And Dover is where not just our troops go, but where when the astronauts in the space shuttle exploded, their bodies went to Dover. When 9/11 happened, all the victims from the Pentagon flight went to Dover. All of our spies and the CIA and all the other acronym agencies, when something happens to them, their bodies go to Dover too. It means Dover is a place filled with secrets. And I love secrets. So you get to see inside this incredible place that I think military families especially will appreciate more than anyone. Mm-hmm. And those books, The Lightning Rod and The Escape Artist, are absolutely two of my favorites I've ever done. In terms of the kids' books, I love I Am Abraham Lincoln. I think it's one of the most vital ones we've ever done. I love I Am Helen Keller, where the pages of the book go black when she loses her sight. And it says, here's how I see the world. Cover your ears. Here's how I hear the world. And I love I Am Jim Henson because Jim Henson's my guy. Yeah. But I think my favorite kids book we've ever done is I Am Anne Frank. Yeah. And it's such an odd issue to say we're going to do a kids book that deals with the Holocaust, but it's one of our number one selling books. And there's so many people out there who just want to teach their kids that when you see injustice, speak up. Yeah. Speak up and use your voice. There's nothing more powerful than your voice. And again, I want my daughter to hear that lesson. I want my sons to hear that lesson. So those are my favorites. And of course, I love the nonfiction books. We do the first conspiracy about the secret plot to kill George Washington, the Lincoln conspiracy, about a plot to kill Abraham Lincoln. Those are nonfiction books I do of that category. I don't have a favorite there. I love all their stories. They're really fun to me.
What have you done in the comic world? Because you've done some comic stuff too, right?
Yeah. So in the comic book world, I've done these characters you might have heard about, Superman and Batman and Spider-Man. And listen, I love writing the thrillers, but when I get to write Batman and put words in Batman's mouth, I'm wearing my underwear on the outside of my pants that day, right? Like I am just the full utility belt on. Like for me, Superman and Batman and George Washington and Abraham Lincoln and Rosa Parks and Zig and Nola in The Lightning Rod. I know that some of those people are real and some of those people are fictional, but the reason why stories persist, and especially the ones that persist for decades and decades, is not just because they're interesting stories, but because they're stories that tell us something about ourselves.
Right.
And I hope when you read Zig and Nola that you see something about yourself, that you see your own family in there. They're like, I love that you feel like you're there. I love that you see yourselves in these books. And the same thing with The Lightning Rod, or the people who are saying, Krista is saying how much your kids love these books. When you can see yourself in a book, it's the real power of a book, right? Is when it lets you see through someone else's eyes.
Well, and Brad, I wanted to bring up, I was reading the Walt Disney book with my kids, and I saw in one part of the book, and I'm not giving anything away, but you said in there, the author of this book takes their children or picks their kids up from school and takes them to Walt Disney. They think that they're going to school or something like that. Can you explain that for me?
Yeah, this is great. So I'm going to tell you some secrets about the kids' books so you can entertain your kids, especially Carrie said that her daughter has read her I Am Martin Luther King Jr. hundreds of times, and it's amazing to see a 7-year-old inspired. I'm going to give you something to make the book new for you. after hundreds of times. So in every single book, you can find me hidden in the book. You'll see that very handsome bald man is hidden somewhere in the book, and tell your kids that they will find me. We hide the number 27 in every book. We hide Superman in every book, or Clark Kent sometimes is hidden in every single book. You'll also see the next hero is hidden in every book. And I will sprinkle in real stories in every book. So in I Am Walt Disney, it tells you, and this is true, that once a year, every year, obviously the pandemic put it aside, but we're plotting and planning it right now for this year, on the way to carpool for my kids, because we live in Florida, while we pull into the carpool lane, instead of dropping the kids off and stopping, I keep going. And one day every year we drive and we skip school and go straight to Disney World. And the kids never know when it is. And I've been doing it since they're little. My youngest, who I did it when he was probably 7, 8 years old, is now 20. So that's how long we've been doing it. And then when they were really little, they would be like, every day they would be like, are we going to Disney World today? We're going to Disney World. And because I wanted them to feel that any day can be magic. And it
Right.
really can. The funniest part was, is as they got older, they started kind of trying to outsmart us. And they'd be like, we know dad's going to be away on this day. And we see mom's here. I think it's going to be this Friday because they, and so one time I actually hid in the trunk of our minivan because they saw my wife and I when we went to school together. They're like, we don't need two parents for carpool. They're doing it today. So I
Right.
hid in the trunk. My wife said, we're going to Disney World. And then I jumped out of the back seat of the minivan because it's right behind the seat and screamed, we're going. And they were like, what? They were screaming. So then I started checking the trunk. So we do that every year. The pandemic made it harder, but we're planning the new one for this year right now.
Incredible. I mean, that's so fun. And just, yeah, every day is magical. So it's just the excitement of, is this the day? Is this
I
the
can't
day?
tell if the magic part is that they love Disney World or they just like skipping school. I don't care. Like either way is fine with me. But the truth is it made everything really exciting. If you live in Florida, obviously if we live somewhere else and it was really hard to go to Disney World, but I love that. I just spoke to someone yesterday when we were doing that Easter event, and they said to me they have a magic day every year, and they don't go to Disney World, but they do something.
Yeah.
They live in DC, so they go to whether it's Gettysburg or the Lincoln Memorial. But I love that idea that you can kind of like show your kids something special every single day. I think that's a really beautiful idea.
I'm taking notes. I'll tell you where our next surprise trip
Tell me
is.
where you're coming.
Yes, so exciting. Well, I wanted to ask some questions again from the spouses that registered. So we have Tara, an Air Force spouse, and she's at Joint Base Lewis McChord. Would like to have you share your outlining and writing process.
Yeah, of course. And thank you for asking. So I, I've been at this a long time, and I feel like I can build the boat while I'm sailing the boat. So if I just have the plot, the general plot, like that one I told you about the valet, I had that for a long time. But I know that for a while I was like, if you just do the plot, it's never going to be good. You need the characters. You got to care about the characters. So my process is I may have the plot in my head, but it takes me a little bit to figure out the characters. So I'm just like, don't start the book until you have the characters. Don't start. I know you can start. Don't. So I will literally sit and work those characters for 6 months. One of the main characters in the Lightning Rod, I knew I had Zig. I knew I had this person from Dover Air Force Base as my hero, but I knew I had this other female hero. I hadn't cracked her yet, but I was like, I'll figure her out. And then I was at a government facility at a base in Virginia at Fort Belvoir, and they were taking me around into this warehouse full with art. And I was like, why does the US government have all this art? And why does the Army have all this art? And they explained to me, and this is true, that since World War I, the US government has had an actual painter on staff that paints disasters as they happen, whether it's storming the beaches of Normandy, whether it's Vietnam, whether it's 9/11. And I'm like, you're telling me that everyone else is racing in with guns blazing, and you've got someone racing in with nothing but paintbrushes in their pockets.
Right.
That guy sounds crazy. I want to meet him. I got to meet him. And they said, you mean her? You want to meet her? And I was like, oh. And Nola Brown, the hero of the Lightning Rod, was born right there. I said, I love this kind of total kick-ass, amazing woman who races into disasters without anything and any care, because we all know that that's a problem child too. And I can relate to that. So I had this one character, Zig, who lost someone in his family that he'll never have back, the person he loves most. I have Nola, who's someone who was thrown away as a child, had no childhood, will never have the family she wants. Neither of them, Zig or Nola, will ever have what they want in their lives, but together they'll have to put together this kind of dysfunctional family. And we all have dysfunctional families, right? We're all born with dysfunctional families, then we build our own new families that are also dysfunctional. But that's what this book in the Lightning Rod is really about. And to me, my process is I'll get those characters, and once I have the characters, I'll start plotting about 50 to 100 pages. I'll write those 50 to 100 pages, then I'll plot the next 50 to 100 pages. The one thing I always know, though, is I always know the ending. I know who done it. So I may not know exactly how, I may not know who they're working with or what every single motivation is, but I know who the bad guy is. And then I work my way there. It's kind of like, I think it's like driving without having the address. If you don't have the address, I just need the address. I don't know how to
Right.
get there. I'll weave my way there over time.
Yeah.
But if I don't have the address, I don't even know whether to go north, south, east, or west. So that's my process. And it takes me a year. It takes me about 6 months to a year just doing research. And then I start writing. So each book takes me about 2 years to do.
Okay. And when you write, do you go to your computer or do you start to handwrite or a little bit of both?
Yeah, I outline by in hand,
Okay.
and then but I write on the computer
Okay.
and just literally sit and talk to my imaginary friends all day.
Right. I love it.
And then I
I
come
love it.
back the next day, I read what I wrote the day before, and then I do some more. And to me, writing is like building a sandcastle, a grain of sand at a time. I just, you put it down. The first day you write one page, you got nothing. You got one grain of sand. Second day, nothing. You got 2 grains of sand. Third day, you write another page, 3 pages, 3 grains of sand. But if you write a page a day in a year, you will have a book. It may
Yeah.
not be the best book, it may need editing, but you got to just every day sit down and keep writing.
Do you ever have your kids or your wife read what you wrote to get their input?
I don't consider a book read until my wife reads it.
Okay.
I don't. My wife reads everything I write. Nothing goes out without her reading it first. And I need that. That's part of my process.
Yeah.
Will say I do you for the kids' books, I let my kids read it. I
Yeah.
always let my kids read it. And they always see things that I don't see because they're kids.
Right.
So they'll be like, I don't understand this, or I don't like that, or I really love that. I'm like, oh, they're really responding to this part. I need to do that part. So I didn't have kids to have a little free focus group, but they have great taste and I trust them. They really graded it.
So good. Okay. Let's talk about Jen. Jen, a Marine spouse, asked how well, this is kind of the same thing. How can I begin the writing process? Do I start with a timeline of events? How can I make them feel they were there? So kind of a spinoff of the first question.
Yeah, but I think, and I think that part is, there's a great Elmore Leonard line that says, if you want to write a great book, you got to leave out all the parts that people skip. Right. So just write the good parts, which is hard advice. It really makes no sense, but you just have to trust your gut
Yeah.
and know that the parts that you find interesting, hopefully the parts that everyone else will find interesting. For some people, that's describing every detail of the room and the smell and the weather and the everything. I'm not like that. I'm like, I want to go fast. I want to go short chapters. I want you to read and turn. On Mother's Day, I want you to be like, someone gave you the lightning rod and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. And I can't put it down. And I want to go like this. Some
Right.
people are like, they need the flowery language. They need the things. I'm like, I need a good character. I need
Yeah.
a good, strong female character, a good, hero, and then the book will go. So for me, I think start with those characters. If you have great characters, we'll follow them anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so you just released this book. What are you working on next?
Yeah. So then let's do that. Oh, I brought some surprises for you guys.
No
Okay. So here we
surprises.
go. So I'm not supposed to show you this, but I can't help it. I don't care. So if you see my publisher and they say, did Brad show you what the next book are? Your answer is no, he didn't
No.
show us anything, and lie to their faces. So I'm going to show you. So here, some of these you can see on our website, but the next books that we're doing in the kids book series. So I'm working on the new Zig and Nola novel is The Lightning Rod. The sequel to that will come out. So read that one. And then the next kids book, we're doing I Am Pei, the great, amazing architect who did the Louvre, and it actually has a pop-up elements. When you get to the Louvre pops up in the book. And then this one, who I know you will love because it's one of everyone's favorites, I Am Dolly Parton.
Yes.
So I Am Dolly Parton comes out with I Am Pei next month. No,
That's
June. Comes out in
incredible.
June, not
Okay.
in June. Then after that, we're going and working with DC Comics. We're doing I Am Superman.
So
And the
cool.
Ordinary People Change the World Series becomes Stories Change the World Series. I Am Batman.
Oh my goodness.
And yes, we're working on Wonder Woman right now. And then here's what I'm not supposed to show you, but I can't help myself.
We won't
We're
tell anyone.
doing I Am John Lewis comes after that.
Awesome.
And then we're doing our first autistic hero, Temple Grandin. And so
Wow.
you'll see Temple Grandin. And then for those who like nonfiction adult books, we're doing the new neck is called The Nazi Conspiracy by myself and Josh Mensch. It's about a triple assassination threat to kill FDR, Stalin, and Winston Churchill at the height of the Cold War. And I'm sorry, the Cold War, the World War II. And it's an incredible book called The Nazi Conspiracy. And that comes out in January. So we're just editing and working on finishing that one now. And then, as I said, throughout all of that, I saw someone ask the question, can you work on many books at once? I'm always working on the thriller. The thriller is the hardest for me. And then I can kind of like jump off into a kid's book because it's only 40 pages. But I try to like write the whole kid's book at once, and I don't do anything until it's done. And then I go back to the thrillers.
Okay. Okay. Well, this is incredible. And you guys don't tell anybody. You saw it
Yeah, if
first.
you want to see it, I will say if you're on our mailing list, if you go to bradmeltzer.com and click the little email us and just shoot me an email to say you're a USO, that you saw me on the USO or that you're a USO military family, please let me know. We'll put you on the mailing list and you get everything first. No one knows. We send that always to them first. So please join the mailing list and join the fun. And we send out cut the line things and let you cut the line at events. And anyway, it's always fun for me.
It's incredible. Your website is incredible, which is bradmeltzer.com. Anything you ever want to know about Brad is on there. There's tours of his office. I mean, it's so cool. So you'll definitely want to check out the website, everybody. Become a super fan like me. And then we always like to ask our guests one last question. So this is the same question for all of our guests, which is, what is the best piece of advice anyone has ever given you?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, for me, I want to give you the thoughtful answer, not just a quick answer. So I do think it still comes back to Miss Spicer for me. I think it will always come back to Miss Spicer for me. And it wasn't like a piece of advice where she said, here's the words. And I, was like Spider-Man, where I was like, and with great power comes great responsibility. And I will have that tattooed on my arm. And it was like, what she gave me as the advice was unwritten, but it was nonetheless the best advice I've ever gotten in my life. And I honor Miss Spicer. Years later, I got to honor her at the school board. They were honoring the best teachers, and everyone got to submit their favorite teacher, and I got to submit mine. And they asked like 6 of us to go down to the school board and surprise our teacher and honor them. And what I saw when I was watching all of the teachers that were being honored that day by people here is all of them have one thing in common. They all broke the rules.
Mhm.
They all broke the rules. And Miss Spicer should have never, ever let me do what she let me do. She should have kept me in the class I was in and done the work that was in her class. And so what? I wasn't going to be challenged, but it's okay. I'll be challenged next year. But she was like, screw that. I'm breaking the rules. You're going to do what the honors work is. I know I can't give you the honors point, but you're going to do this. And she just, and I love that attitude of never stopping, never stopping, never stopping. Go get what you want. Was ingrained in me in ninth grade. And I sit here today thanks to her kindness. And I can never pay her back for that. She, of course, all those books you see, she gets a copy. They all go to her house. I still, to this day, Miss Spicer will never pay for a book. But I owe her forever for that advice that was ingrained in me, even as a kid.
It's incredible.
So listen, you
Incredible.
heard from me today. I mean, I had 24 rejection letters in my first book. I don't look back on them and say, well, I was right and they were wrong. Haha on them. I look back and say, whatever it is you all do in your lives, whether it's that you're staying at home, whether you're serving, whatever it is you do, don't let anyone tell you no. Like Miss Spicer taught me, don't let anyone tell you no.
How can you get to yes? Absolutely. So good. Brad, this has been incredible. We appreciate your time. I mean, clearly, with everything that you're working on, you're incredibly busy. You flew back from the White House event to do this event with us. So we appreciate your time and your generosity and your friendship. So thank you so much for hanging out with us today, having coffee. And everybody, you can check out Brad, like I said, on his Instagram account. We put up his how you can follow him in the chat. He's on Facebook. He's on Twitter. Again, the website is bradmeltzer.com. And Brad, cheers. Thanks again. And we appreciate you.
Cheers. Thanks, everybody. More important, the only thing I'm going to say, I said at the beginning, I need to say at the end, thank you for what you do. Thank you for not coming here, not just for buying the books. I love all that. But thank you to everyone at the USO for what you do. I proudly still I wear my USO gear that they gave me to this day in every place. And when they say, you want to cut the line? I said, nope, I will never. But they gave me that gear, and I do it because I want people to know that you're out there. And the members of our military, I know every base that I've ever traveled to, I've traveled to so many of them, appreciate what you do with the USO, all of you spouses out there, all of you. I know what your family sacrifices to do this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You think, people forget? We don't forget. And to me, Veterans Day and Memorial Day are not those 2 days of the year. They're every single day. And I appreciate what you do for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. We appreciate it. And thank